All right, welcome back, everybody. If you've been following along, if you haven't been following along and you want to jump in, there is a GitHub repo down below. I usually in my several part series, I do a repo for each part in the series. I'm just doing one repo on this one because I want to have a viable product at the end. But each part where there's code is a branch in that repo, so you can join in at any point if you want to. Before we get started, I just wanted to circle back on a half thought I had last time, and that is in the app.dart file. I think at one point I said that I was going to achieve the splitting of the platform by creating this app class and then creating another class that I then put inside of the app class, and that was only half a thought. What I meant to circle back to is that this really is not necessary. So the platform app would be enough to split this into a Cupertino app for iOS users and a Material app for Android users. No problem there without this app. The reason I wrapped it in another class is that when I start wrapping the app for providers to put those in at the application level, my choice is to either wrap it here in Cupertino app and Material app and duplicate myself, or create a hierarchy where I have a class that actually contains both the Cupertino and the Material app, and I can perform my wrap up there. So that's what I was trying to accomplish there, and I didn't complete that thought. The other thing I want to circle back to is the routes. I always said routes. I'm from New England, then I married a Midwesterner, and she says routes, and I've been confused ever since. But in here, so first of all, I got some suggestions on some packages that I'm going to look at that can simplify this process before this gets more complicated. But it was also pointed out to me that this break is redundant, and that is absolutely correct. So we're going into each case, and we are returning the material page route, and we are exiting at that point. So we don't need a break. So we can take those out. And thank you so much for pointing that out. I think as coders, we get in the habit of either we saw something in a tutorial that was incorrect, or we copied and pasted from the internet, or it was correct and somehow we messed it up in our mind, and we never stop and question it. And I look back, and I've been doing this return break for quite some time. So we can take those out of the material page routes and the Cupertino page routes. And I actually didn't put it in the login, and it still worked. So that should have been my clue. So that cleans that up a little bit. What I'd like to accomplish in today's part is to add Firebase. We're going to use Firebase for a number of things. One is a database. We'll use Firestore as our database, and then we'll also use auth in Firebase, and eventually we'll use push notifications and potentially some of the other features that Firebase has. So we need to add that to our project. So to do that, I'm going to go to we'll go to firebase.google.com, and if you do not already have an account, you need to set one up, and we'll go to the console and add a project. So we'll call this farmers market. All one word is fine. Maybe I'll throw a dash in there. What the heck? I'm going to skip Google Analytics for now. We can always get those later. We'll create the project. All right, so now we have a project, and we can link that to our Flutter application. But before we do, it's going to ask you to input a package name, and you get a default package name with Flutter, and you can put in, at the time that you create your app, a package name that is something that you want to run to production with. But if you didn't do that, like we didn't do, this would be a good time to change it, because once you put it into Firebase, it's going to want to sync with your package name, so you'll have to change both if you don't change your application package name now. So let's do that. So I'm going to start with iOS, and I'm going to do that by opening Xcode. And I'm just going to open up the project. So I would go into my project, I go into iOS, and I look for this runner XC workspace, and I open that. All right, and I can see on my Just click on the runner here, and I can see that I've got com example.farmersmarket, and I would like to change example to Julo. And so when Firebase asks me for my bundle identifier, I'm going to give them this. So I'm just going to shrink that for now. And that's iOS, and that's really easy. Unfortunately, Android is a little bit trickier. So for Android, we want to go into Android app, SRC, main, and we want to go to Android manifest, and we want to change it there. Then we want to go to build.gradle in the this level here, so the app level, build.gradle. And in our default config, there is an application ID, and you can see it's even got a to-do, is to create our own unique ID here. So we want the exact same, so let's make sure we're typing these exactly the same. I'm going to get rid of this to-do because it's no longer a to-do. All right, then also so we're in app, we're in SRC, we're in main. There's the Kotlin folder. And you can see that the Kotlin structure is the default package name. So it's com example Julo. Oh, that's interesting. Okay, so it already created this for me. This main.activity, I don't want this here. I want a clean kotlin.com that is com Julo farmers market with this main activity Kotlin file in there. So let me rename this to Julo. It says that already exists, so let me get rid of this folder. Not sure if yours will look a little different, but what we're trying to get to is the same objective. So it's in Kotlin com example farmers market main activity. We want to change this so it matches our package name. So mine is com.julo.farmersmarket, and then the main activity is inside of that. So, and then you want to click on the main activity, and lastly, you want to change this package name here to your package name. All right, so hopefully that made sense. And I just want to reiterate here with the path, you want it to be Kotlin and then your package name. So I've got com Julo farmers market, com Julo farmers market. If whatever your package is, you want to match that path. And again, if you're not changing the package name, you don't have to worry about this, which is a good thing. All right, so that should do it. So now that we have that set, let's close. I'm going to close this. I think I'll keep Android manifest open because I want to copy and paste this. So now we can add our apps. And the best documentation I find is to just go to the docs here. And it will take you to a page and you can say, get started with Android, get started with iOS. Just click on one of those. It doesn't matter. Because what we're looking for on that next page is this fly down here that says use Firebase with a framework. And if you expand that, Flutter is currently the only option. So if we click on that, we're going to get Flutter instructions, and there are chips to select for the different platforms. So let's start with Android. All right, and step one is to create a Firebase project. We did that. Step two is to register our app. So if we come back here to our Firebase project, we have the option of adding apps, and this is on Project Overview. If you've clicked on one of these, just click on Project Overview. It'll take you here. So we want to add an Android app, so I'll click on Android, and the very first thing it's going to ask me for is my package name. So in your Android manifest, at the top, you can just copy that, paste it in there. You can give it an optional nickname, so I will say Farmers Market Android. And then you have an optional debug signing certificate, and I am going to put that in there because one of the requirements of Google Sign is that you have that SHA certificate set. So when I come back here to my instructions, I put in a nickname. I'm at the signing certificate, and it gives me a link here with SHA-1 hash, so I'll take that. So this gives you the option for your release fingerprint and your debug fingerprint. We are just going to get debug, but for God's sakes, if you plan to take this to a release form, make sure you come back and get your release fingerprint as well. Don't upload this to the App Store, Google Play, and with your debug, because it won't work. I'm speaking like someone who did that, and I did. It was just the alpha, so it was not like it went to production or anything, but it was frustrating that it would work. I'd upload it and it wouldn't work, and that was because I didn't have my release debug fingerprint or release fingerprint inside there when I uploaded it. So Mac and Linux instructions here, Windows instructions there. I'm just going to copy this and I'm going to paste it into a terminal. It says right there in the instructions that the password is Android. And so I get this gobbledygook here, and what I'm after is the SHA-1. So I'll copy that. And then I can paste that right in here, and that will give me a debug signing certificate. All right, I'm just going to clear out. I've got some old versions of these kicking around in my download folder, so I'm going to pull those out, and then I'm going to download this Google Services JSON, and I'm going to back button on this certificate, and that'll take me back to the directions. And so I downloaded my Google Services JSON, and then I want to put it in Android app. So I will make it over here, download, and I want to put it in Android app. Good deal. All right, so there's a few requirements we want to check out in Gradle. So first, in our root level Gradle, which is here, we were looking for three things. That we have Google in our build script repositories, so check that we have this GMS Google Services in our dependencies. Nope, so let's copy that. And that we have Google in our all projects repositories, which I do, so check. All right, I'll save that, and now there is the app level Gradle file, which is here. And we want to add this apply plugin line, so we've got a part of this file where plugins are being applied. It doesn't actually matter where it goes, but to keep it organized, we'll just put it after the Kotlin Android apply plugin. Save that, and while we're here, we're also going to bump up this minimum SDK version to 21. That is a not well advertised minimum requirement of the, I'm not sure if it's Auth or Firestore. I think it might be Auth, but if you try to build with it minimum SDK version, you get this error about DAX files and not enough space. So we will head that off at the pass by putting 21 in there now. All right, so back in our directions here, we want to add Flutterfire plugins. That's the last step for iOS as well. So let's jut over to iOS. I'm coming back up at the top. I'm going to hit iOS. I'm going to collapse all this Android stuff. And so we want to create a Firebase project. We did that. Register our app with Firebase. So let's go back to our project. We can just next through all this stuff that we can skip over that because that becomes a native installation. So after you download your Google Services JSON, just go ahead and skip to the end and forget those instructions. Add an app, we'll add an iOS app, and we want our bundle ID, which we will get directly from Xcode. It is slightly different than Android. That's fine as long as the bundle ID matches the bundle ID we put in Firebase and the package ID matches the package ID we put in the Android app. So copy that. Put that there. We have our optional nickname, so I will say Farmers Market iOS. Optional App Store ID, which I'm going to skip, so we'll register the app. That takes me to download Google Services Info plist. We will download that. And at this point, you can skip out of the rest of these directions because we want to come back to our directions here that are for Flutter. So we downloaded our Google Services Info plist. I have trouble saying Google. It's the double G sound gets me every time. Using Xcode, we want to move that file into runner. So we'll pull up Xcode, pull up my downloads here, and I want to drop that right inside the runner folder. Click Finish, and there we go. So at this point, you want to close Xcode because when you start this, it's going to think that you want it running the application, and it will get a little confused by Visual Studio Code running it and Xcode trying to run it. So you can close that. And that's it for iOS, except for both of these platforms, we need to add the Flutter Fire plugins. So we can go to pubspec.yaml. We can get ourselves down here to after Cupertino icons. That's where we're going to put them. So we'll come back to pub.dev or go to pub.dev. And we want Firebase Core. That's a common library that all of them use. So we're going to add Firebase Core. That's a required plugin according to this documentation. It's not according to the documentation on flutter.dev, but doesn't seem to harm. So we will grab Firebase Core. We will put this in here. Save it. Make sure it's lined up with Cupertino icons. And then you grab whatever packages you need. So we need Firebase auth. So that's Firebase_auth. We go to installing. We grab the latest version. We put that here. And we're also going to want Firestore pretty quickly. So let's get Firestore. And that is cloud_Firestore. Go to installing, and we'll grab the latest version there. All right, and that should do it. We haven't done anything with these plugins, but at the very least, we should be able to still run our app and not get any errors. So I am going to run it first in iOS, and we will just make sure everything's working. Plan on this taking longer to boot up than you are used to. There's some dependencies that Firebase has to pull down. It just takes a while on the first run. So I will start it, and then I'll come back when it's up. All right, so as promised, it took a while, but we have no errors, and it's working just like it did before, so we can call that a success on iOS. So I am going to reboot this in Android, and we'll just make sure it works on that platform as well. All right, so I'm getting an error right out of the gate, and I've seen this before. It is overlay manifest package. Where's the real message here? It has to do with, and this has to do with changing the package name. It's not able to copy the Android manifest value to the other Android manifests, and it should be able to do that automatically, and for some reason it sometimes struggles to do that. So in Android, in app, in SRC, in main, we have our Android manifest. And we changed the package name to Com Julo Farmers Market. So that was okay. So we copy that. Let's just copy that. And what it should do is there are two more manifests. So inside profile, there's another one with a package name. So we'll copy that and paste the new one in there. And then inside debug as well. So outside of main, so Android app SRC debug, there's another Android manifest, and we'll just paste that in there. It should be able to copy those, but for some reason it wasn't able to. So we'll do that, and then we'll run it again. And with that change in place, this actually booted up really quick, way faster than iOS. And we've got our sign up function, login, everything still works. So manually making those Android manifest changes pushed us through. And again, if you didn't change the package identifier, you didn't need to do that. So that'll wrap it up for this episode. Next time I'm going to come back and I'm going to go over a UML diagram that I've put together for the login flow for this app. It's probably time to step back, come up with a strategy before we proceed, but we've got basically the foundation to build this app ready to go. So be sure to subscribe so you don't miss that. If you found this helpful, please like the video, and we will see you in the next one. Thanks for watching.